Welcome to The Most Interesting Person I Know, brought to you by Northwest Access TV. If you or somebody you know that works or lives in Franklin County has an interesting story you would like to share, contact the email below and let's get you on the schedule. Today, our guest is the great and powerful Andre Maquera. How's it going, buddy?
I sound like the Wizard of Oz here. The all-powerful.
Well, you are all-powerful. Every time I see you doing anything, you are executing it at a level of power that is above what most people execute anything at. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know any better. That's my excuse. I just do stuff.
That's a pretty good excuse. I'm going to take the fun out of that and make a point. I think anyone that is successful at refining their craft, such as yourself, has to have it as a compulsion. And I think that's a gift. To have a compulsion can be a gift.
Well, I think we're all self-analytical. And I think the key is, you're always self-examining, going, okay, I'm doing this. How can I make this better? I mean, that's my thought process in life. It's like I wake up going, yeah, I can do that. It's just trying to streamline everything, and I guess that transcends over in everything.
Do you ever consider how much of a blessing it is to think like that?
I don't think any other way. So I appreciate the blessings of the result that I get from that. But I guess I don't actually, because I think anybody can only think the way they think, and that's the way their trains of thought work. So that's the way the trains are running on time. It's you try to keep the trains running on time, and yeah, I guess you could be introspective about it, but for me, it's just that's the way life has always been. I always try to you never be happy with the way things are. I think, that complacency, I guess I'm happy but never complacent, if that makes sense.
So you'll experience the fruits of your labor, but you won't let that define where your bar is because you want to keep moving.
Yeah, the bar is a moving target all the time. So if you can achieve this level, that means, okay, that's achievable. What can I do?
And now that's the baseline.
That becomes, then we move up from there.
I like that. I like to really try to read people and see the versions of themselves. I've never said this out loud, so now you're hearing that this is a thing I do, and I hope you don't feel
first, people.
I hope you don't feel self-conscious, but I do it with everybody, which means I've done it with you. I like to look at who the person is within the person I'm talking to, without the frills, without the persona that they put out, and maybe even notice some psychological tics that they might not notice about themselves. And in doing so, the reason I asked that question a minute ago is I have found that there is a large subset of people that don't have the thought process that you and I happen to share, which is optimize and just make things better and hold yourself to a standard that requires that. And so one of the things that I've been doing with this show, I've been bringing on people that I admire, and at the end of every episode, I'll ask them what they're doing to make themselves better. And it's been interesting because everyone's been a friend so far, and I can watch them realize if they have or have not been making deliberate attempts to make themselves better. And then I can also weigh that against what I see as their actions. And so for you, whether or not you are consciously aware of the fact that you have a mindset that allows you to do these things, you're putting forth the work consistently to do those things. And I think that you should consider that a blessing, because that's really cool.
Oh yeah, I'm very pragmatic about my approach to things. I always, in fact, what I'm doing right now, I have a show at the Queen Tribute Band I play with coming up on Saturday, and what I do is it's what I call immersion. So when I'm rehearsing for the show, I've got everything that I would have in the show. I set out a space in the studio there. I've got my in-ears in. I'm running the entire set with, again, the luxury. This is first world problems. I've got the luxury of having a music minus me track, nice. A multi-track of everything. So I'm hearing the entire band playing with me with, of course, the click track and all these other things that we use to keep everything synced up. So I'm playing the whole show, switching guitars, singing all my parts, remembering the lyrics, God willing, and so it's that whole immersion thing. In fact, later today, when I run through it today, I'm going to put my contacts in because I only wear my contacts when I'm playing on stage so my glasses don't fly off my head.
Yeah.
So that will be, again, total immersion, trying to recreate that situation because I have this thing I call the sacred vow that you have with your audience, that when you set foot on the stage, it is a privilege. And as a privilege, you do everything in your power to always bring your A game, whatever's in the tank. You know, when you leave the stage, the tank's empty.
Absolutely.
But that whole preparation, people, the standards have changed too. I've noticed too. It used to be when I started out, there were bands on the circuit that were just amazing, and they were just because you could do that. That could be a career. You could play music as a career, and we had these. It was almost like the baseball tier system. You had single A ball, double A, triple A, and you had major league. So different venues that you could play. Mm-hmm. Say, for instance, a higher ground would be like, a double A, triple A kind of a club. And, if you're playing the Enormo Dome, that's major leagues.
Yeah.
But they don't have that anymore. And musicians don't have the option of making a career out of that. So it's become an avocation for many.
I would agree with the latter, that the career opportunities are less. But at least a decade ago, I remember aspiring to, much like you do, breaking down to the component parts, aspiring to, this is the path that I have to do to hit higher ground. And I remember the moment that I hit higher ground, and it was like a milestone moment where it's like, now I have transcended to double A baseball.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I've seen you play at higher ground. I was not nearly as good. But such is life. I think it's really cool that you do that. I remember one time we were both on the rail trail. I was walking, you were biking, and you were running the set list. And it's just like, I think that's what separates people. You are willing to absolutely put in the work. Whether or not you're doing it for the sake of you or the audience, you're doing the work, and it absolutely shows. 8084 is so tight. The Queen Tribute Band is so tight. It is, it's honestly a privilege to watch.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, again, it's, and I can't stress this enough, what an honor it is to be able to play on stage. I mean, the idea that we get to do on stage what people dream about in their bedrooms, whether they're holding a hairbrush or a tennis racket or whatever they're doing, we get to do that, and people pay us to do that. You talk about living a dream. That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Absolutely.
So I just feel like I've always thought that I owe it to the audience to always give them that, whatever I can, and I always try to, it's never, it's always, again, it's a privilege. And when I talk to a lot of young performers too. I try to mentor people, and I always explain to them, aren't you nervous getting on stage? Why'd you be nervous getting on stage? It's the only time in your life where you're totally in control of things.
Yeah.
You don't have homework. You don't have an electric bill. Yeah. You don't have anybody screaming at you, telling you what to do. It's the freedom that affords, and just that moment, and trying to explain to them to embrace the moment. And when you're on stage, it's an e-ticket ride that I don't think a lot of people can appreciate until you've done. Everybody has something they do that gives them that rush, that feeling, and the fact that I get to do it pretty regularly is pretty cool.
I don't think that there are many things that compete with that particular rush, and you can do it very frequently.
Yeah, and people say, it's such a thrill and a privilege, and as I'm becoming an elder statesman of rock here, and I have to work harder. The body is less forgiving of bouncing around for a couple hours.
You got to count how many jumps you do per set. I don't want to blow up your spot, but we were talking one time, and you're like, I think I'm going to do one, maybe two. And then the show ended, and you're like, I did 4. Oh boy, I'm going to feel that tomorrow.
Yeah, and you will, and that's the whole thing. It's just, and I try not to, you don't want to be too staged or too choreographed, but there are moments where the moment seizes you, and I always liken it to the bumblebee. People say, you're 65, you shouldn't be jumping around like that. And I think, it's like the bumblebee. The bumblebee, if you do the paperwork on it, the body size is too big, wings are too small, things should not be able to fly. But who doesn't know that?
The bumblebee.
The bumblebee.
Yeah.
And when I get on stage, I'm the bumblebee, and I'm blissfully unaware of my physical limitations.
That's awesome. Also, 65, that is crazy. You don't seem at all, and I'm not blowing smoke.
Well, I think it's because I'm remarkably immature.
Yeah,
that sort of
you
kept me
absolutely are.
You ask my lovely bride, she will tell you that.
I think that's endearing, man. Like, when we first met, I don't know if I ever told you this, but when we first met, we had our conversations. It felt like we hit it off. That was good. I was like, I'm not sure if this is just he is a great conversationalist or if we're actually connecting. And then I went and I looked at some 8084 stuff from back when you guys were my age. And I'm like, damn, dude, I would have been friends with this guy for sure. So it's like, you have not changed. I'm sure you've changed in many ways, but the essence of you feels as if it has stayed true to you. And I know a lot of people that will hit 65 and cannot say that for themselves.
Well, here's the scary thing. If you ever want to get a barometer for how things progress or devolve, go to a class reunion.
Oh boy, yeah.
You'd be surprised how many old people are at class reunions.
And it's like, you must have been 10 years after me.
Yeah, it's just, again, I think, well, see here, I'm lucky. Music keeps you young. That's one of the things that, there are a couple things that I'm really lucky that music, I think, for one, keeps you young. And the other thing is there's a dogged willingness to keep learning. The thirst for knowledge, I think that also keeps you young, because that's kind of a hallmark of youth. If you think about it, you spend most of your youth learning. And I think if you always maintain that through your life, and my dad always taught me, be a student of the world, understand what motivates people, and you'll understand the world you live in.
Absolutely.
So I always try to understand people and just, again, be a student of the world. But I always keep learning, whether it's technical, you know what it's like being a producer.
Never ends.
And technology, and there's always that push for that kind of cutting edge thing, and there's always going to be new technology. I always going to stay on top of that. And for me, as a producer in the studio, I also have to be aware of different genres. So when I have a hip hop artist come in, I have to be able to understand what they're trying to achieve, and understand the nuance of their particular genre.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be dismissive or not respect, but hey,
and so much can translate too.
Oh yeah.
Even if you're just doing like purely like quantifiable frequency ranges that you might not play around with, can transfer from genre to genre very well.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm producing a blues album, I make sure there's a bad hall reverb on there.
Exactly, you got to do it.
Again, it's almost like if you were a chef, like, I need to put too much salt in this. It's just like, and part of you goes, it would sound better if I didn't. But respecting the genre and again, never look down on anything. That's one of the things that you have to appreciate and again, because art is so subjective that you don't want to. You don't want to have a condescending eye, or ever, especially you don't ever make your artist feel that way too, that you don't respect what they're doing. So I mean, that's again, it's a privilege. I get to work with a lot of different artists. I work with a lot of pop artists, country, rock. I've got there's no real shortage of genres, and I guess you have to kind of wear a lot of, and as you wear a lot of hats in this business, and
yeah. Well, that's what wearing the hats is, what lets you do it, right?
Yeah.
You got to earn that privilege. That's the toll.
Yeah, no, and again, I never lose sight of how lucky I am that I get to do that. So yeah, I'm seldom bored.
Yeah. Well, your life couldn't possibly be boring. So I have a little anecdote that I'd like to share with you that was sparked by something a little earlier, and then I just wrote down something else. I have a feeling that you and I, with our ADD brains, are going to be all over the place. So I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
You were talking about
something shiny.
Oh, a lot of shiny. Oh, I shouldn't have actually looked into those lights. You and I were talking a minute ago about respecting the genre, and so here's something that happened to me that was so unfortunate. I very much regret it. It was not my fault, but I hate that it happened, and I think you can appreciate it. So I had the opportunity. I love what's happening in Nashville right now.
Yeah.
The performers, the producers, the mix engineers, everybody that is touching anything in that town in a commercial sense.
It's a new music mecca now.
It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
The level of craftsmanship, as far as what I have been exposed to, if you were to look at the average, is the highest there. Now, obviously, there will be aspects that are better here or with this person or worse, better. But as an average, I do not know that there is a collection of creatives that are doing better than what is happening in Nashville right now. Some could disagree. I don't.
Well, no, I mean, you have to sort of separate the idea of Nashville as a country, as a country
'cause
stop.
it's very much
it's
not.
It's, I mean,
everything.
I mean, all the metal producer guys I know are down in Nashville now. Everybody's in Nashville now.
Yeah, and even if it is country, these are all transferable skills. You could like raised ranch, but not like an A-frame. You need the same skills to build both.
Yep.
But so I say that to say this: I got in touch with a Grammy-nominated producer down there, who I had found by happenstance. But years before, when I started getting into listening to pop country to learn, I heard a couple songs that he did with an artist, and I remember the moment. I was like, "Damn, this is an amazing producer." So years pass, and by happenstance, I get to meet this person, and I decide, let's do a song together. I want to see what Nashville pop country can look like when introduced to my pop punk that I'm doing, because I consider myself commercial punk by way of Nashville. I'm using all of their tricks. I'm stealing directly from their playbook.
Yeah.
We linked up, and my mix was better, and I couldn't use his, and I had to tell him that. And it absolutely dive bombed the relationship. And it's like, I love what he's doing, but he didn't respect the genre. He didn't do his research. There were literally, and this will mean nothing to anyone else but people that do it, there were frequencies he didn't touch.
Oh.
You have to touch everything.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, it was unusable. And so that anecdote you were talking about, respecting the genre, I feel like you could appreciate on a level that other people might not. But the point that I wanted to make after that was the psychology of working with artists.
Oh, yeah.
You are working as the man taking the vision and putting it into something tactile, something that's actually real. And so you have to essentially manage the psyche of every person you're working with in order to get those thoughts onto tape. What is that like?
Well, yeah, it's actually something I always tell a lot of people is, I mean, as a producer, you are a psychologist, you're a mommy, you're a daddy, you're all these people. You have to quickly assess all the disparate personalities that you're dealing with. You pick out the alpha, you pick out the runt of the litter, you pick out who's the person who I need to talk to. It's usually the alpha, but sometimes there's another person, the Secretary of State or whoever, who holds some power and wields some power in the group dynamic, and being able to figure out how do I, again, being pragmatic about things. I mean, I'll tell people from the outset, I'm going to throw a lot of ideas at you. Feel free to dismiss them, with prejudice. And they're just ideas. They're not my kids. I don't take it personally. I'm going to throw a lot of stuff, and I respect you enough to respect your opinion. And by the same token, understand that if you say something, I'll try anything. Mm-hmm. But if it doesn't work, if we need to get a bigger hammer to force a part in to a song, then it's pretty indicative that's not necessarily the right part for the song. And so it has to be that sort of mutual respect. But yeah, there's a lot of psychology about sometimes at some point somebody's going to blow apart 8 times in a row, and you have to be ready to kind of defend them or somehow diffuse the situation. A lot of times I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I got to go back. That's me. I didn't hit record or something." And you have to have big shoulders for those things. And it's really about getting the results and understanding. And again, I think people at the end of the day understand that you're on their side. Sometimes, I don't know if you've dealt with this, but we have this syndrome we call chasing the demo, where they've heard their cassette version of a song so many times that they're trying to make it sound like that.
Oh, yeah.
Or the whatever limitations are of whatever medium they recorded in. Well, and the other one is, and this is very subjective. A lot of people go, well, I don't know how we're going to do that live. It didn't stop the Beatles.
Yeah, right.
At
They're
the end
two totally different beasts, though, too.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's something that I really like to hammer home is that a recording artist and a performing artist are almost not doing the same thing.
No, it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah.
And it's also, you have to have a whole very different paradigm, different approach to the way you go about it, and understand that you, for a live version of the song, you kind of distill down the basic parts of what you need to do, and so that you don't lose the essence of the song, but you still portrayed what the original intent was. But when I get people who go, no, we can't do that, or we don't have a cellist. Nobody has a cellist.
Yeah, right. That's why the world has backing tracks.
Unless you're the Boston Pops or whatever, you probably don't have a cellist.
Yeah.
Or,
doesn't mean the song wouldn't be served by having a cello.
And that's always been my credo. My credo is serve the song.
Yeah.
If the, and I always say, this is what I hear. I hear this part, or can we try this? And I always try to frame it in that context, so they don't feel like that they have to do something, but keeping an open mind and approaching it that way. And again, I always appreciate the fact that people are trusting me with their babies.
Yeah.
And I try not to lose sight of that, because it's important to respect that.
Yeah.
Because it's even though I might work with 5 different artists in a week, on that particular hour of that particular day, it's their baby that I'm handling, so I would try to get them.
Yeah, that's hard sometimes, right?
Oh,
you got to
yeah.
get yourself correct. When you were walking in, I had just done an episode of the show, and I knew that I was not in the mindset to do our episode. Had to walk away for a minute.
I have that effect on people.
I was like, I need to level up. Andre's gonna bring his A game, but it's like a much smaller extent of that, where it's like, I'm just here trying to respect your time. I want to bring what I can bring to you. You have that scaled up a million. You have to respect their time, but you have to respect the fact that they are bringing to you a very intimate piece of themselves, or if it's not, a very potentially commercially viable piece of themselves.
Yeah.
And they have all those interests as well. One of the things that I think is cool is you're trusted with their baby, sure, for sure. But you've got like 2 subsets, I would imagine, streams of people coming in. And the first stream of people, this applies to both, but the first is coming in because they need a recording studio.
Yep.
And you are trusted with their baby in that regard. The second is coming in, you're trusted with their baby in that regard too, but they're coming in to work with Andre. And that's cool.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a privilege, and I appreciate that. And I mean, excuse me, I've got a few clients, well, more than a few, that give me carte blanche to work on their material. They'll send me. And again, this is technology. God bless technology. Here's a case, for instance. I have a composer that I work with who's based down around Dartmouth, down in New Hampshire. And they're a former Windham Hill artist. And so she'll track piano parts and just send me probably like a MIDI track or something of piano, so I can choose piano sounds and whatever. And the cool thing about this, and this is one of those pinch me moments, having worked on Windham Hill, she's got this cast of characters that she can tap for parts.
Yeah.
And the minute she told me, hey, this bass player I met working on a Windham Hill project I released, it's Tony Levin.
That name doesn't mean anything, but
Tony
to
Levin,
me. But who's that?
Tony Levin is the bass player from King Crimson. He's Peter Gabriel's longtime bassist.
Oh wow, yeah.
He's played session work for everybody from Kiss to Pink Floyd.
That's amazing, yeah.
And he's the bass player on this particular project that I'm producing.
That's so cool.
And she gives me carte blanche to play whatever guitar I hear. Here's the other funny part about this particular project is she goes, now I've got this drummer. I've known him since he was a kid. He used to play in the town band with my dad. And I'm thinking, oh God, nothing ruins a song faster than a bad drummer.
No, for real.
And I said, okay, so where's he at? Oh, he's out in L.A. Okay, what's he doing out there? Oh, he's the drummer in the band Train.
Absolutely burying the lead on that one.
Gee, you could bury the lead on that one. Yeah. Matt Musty, a Vermonter, great drummer.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Very musical drummer. And it is such a fun project because I get these tracks from these guys, and it's just like, I almost don't want to EQ things, but I know I need to make it fit to someone. I'm thinking, that's Tony Levin sending these bass parts.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it's such a treat to work with people of that caliber. So, again, it's technology. People can work in their home studios. Again, I get multi-tracks from Matt. He tracks them out there in L.A.
Yeah. That couldn't have possibly been the case 20 years ago
No,
25 years ago.
I used to do-
anything before.
I used to do a lot of radio and TV commercials. I worked a lot with CAX down in Burlington. And fortunately, my wife worked at Vermont Gas, which is right around the corner from WCAX. So when I would do like a voiceover for a commercial, hey, Dodge Toyota, turn it up the heat with smoke and summer savings. Those.
I've heard that.
Yeah. I did what we used to call affectionately the drag racing commercial. Sunday. And I used to do a bunch of, that type of produce those commercials. And I used to have to send like 5 reels of 30-second spots down with my wife to Burlington.
Oh, wow.
And the salespeople would pick them up there and bring them out to the radio and in the different TV stations. So, yeah, technology now it's granted it's MP3s that you send out to everybody, but yeah, it's amazing.
I'm embarrassed to send an MP3. It is imperceivable quality difference unless you're using it like multi-generational, but I will still take the extra minute to bounce out a wave just to be like, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're going to re-export it as MP3 probably anyways for their file sharing, but
yeah.
Oh, man. I had something and I lost it. That is always the case when I start thinking about exports. Oh, anecdotal story. When I was working on delivering this last album, I think I messaged you, or at least you saw the status. There was some engagement with a Facebook post about it, and I remember thinking, my goodness, Andre's the only one that could possibly understand this. They had such specific export requirements that it took me 11 hours total to get them all variances of stems that they needed. My goodness. Can you imagine if that was analog? I couldn't do it. I couldn't possibly do it. It wouldn't be possible to do it.
Then you have to FedEx it.
Yeah. Just a giant 40-pound box.
Shipping costs have gone down now in our industry.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting. Like you obviously have kept with the times. Like I'll go to your studio and you'll have plugins that I haven't even heard of before. I know a lot of people that started with analog will stick with analog. It seems like you're merging the two worlds, and I admire that. But it is interesting how great out-of-the-box sounds you can get these days.
Yeah.
And it is a thought experiment that I go back and forth on a lot, which is if it is too good, then it eliminates the barrier to entry, and now my work as a consequence, when paired against someone who doesn't have the same level of craftsmanship but has better plugins, makes my work look worse, when it's objectively better. Or the only reason I can do what I'm doing is because that exists in the first place. Like I'm doing MIDI drums half the time.
Yeah.
I'm not micing each individual aspect of the kit. No way, I couldn't possibly afford to do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's very interesting how everything has gotten so accessible. And you can have either school of thought, but you can't deny the fact that there's some amazing stuff happening that would never have otherwise existed. And I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I always say that anybody that's nostalgic for tape hasn't worked with tape. Tape is a pain in the butt. I don't miss tape at all.
Yeah.
I mean, even digital tape machines I don't miss. It's like when you want to rewind, you're going to rewind. We don't rewind anymore.
But what about the warmth, Andre? We've lost the warmth.
I read this. There's a great quote from Becker from Steely Dan. He was saying, you spend all this time dialing in a sound, then you run into analog tape and it changes everything. It's like, I guess there are those the connoisseurs who people who know exactly what it's going to do, or they use it as a coloring tool. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you spend all this time dialing in a sound. The cool thing about digital is it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
you get what you dialed in.
And I mean, all the plugins. Speaking of plugins, now all these plugins all have a noise component that they've added. If you look at any of the Waves plugins, has the analog button there, so it duplicates the noise that we spent decades trying to remove from everything.
Man, as soon as anything can reliably be not a problem anymore, it becomes an aesthetic.
Yeah.
CD scratches, 8-bit, anything, vinyl sound. I will literally put just vinyl air into my songs sometimes just to have the texture.
Yeah.
But 60 years ago, you're like, I hate this.
Oh, yeah.
CD scratches are now cool. 20 years ago, I hate this. It's very interesting. I'm curious as to what the next thing. Oh, this is gross. The biggest problem in digital seems to me redlining and clipping.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the cute thing in 10 years?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of digital clipping that I hear on things. There was I think they're kind of going back now, but there was a period where things were just getting such that brick of a
Yeah.
waveform. I remember like Panic at the Disco, one of their albums. I was like, because like, oh man, I can't listen to it.
Dude, that is amazing that you say that. I am almost positive that was a Fueled by Ramen release. It has to be, because everything from them is just so brick walled.
Yeah.
But if you go earlier in their discography, they are one of the most dynamic acts of that decade.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
why you find an artist like that. It's like, oh man. I still buy CDs. Obviously, I'm I can't download the album on MP3 or whatever. I still buy physical CDs, and I remember getting that and going, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
And I'm like. And I'm bringing it, digitally going in my workstation. Trying, if I bring the trim back, I'm thinking, no, it's.
You know how there used to be for music videos a totally separate mono mix of the song for music videos for when it would go on television?
Yeah, I used to have to do that with commercials. It was always, you had to check every commercial for mono compatibility.
Yeah.
I used to have on my console, I used to have one of those little TV speakers that I could flip to so I could make sure
it works.
Yeah, make sure that we're not losing any whatever, again, especially if doing any kind of cool things. But now, everybody's got a stereo everything.
Everyone does, but I can tell when I hear a Fueled by Ramen release, any of their artists, that's the label that Panic was on when they brick walled it.
Yeah.
I can tell, and I've started theorizing, and I haven't put it into practice because I can't. I can, but like in the moments that I think about it, I can't because I'm driving. I'm wondering if they're just not doing a mix down in mono, but just mixing a song, bouncing it in mono, and then releasing it, because that's what it sounds like to me. I don't hear any dynamics. And
well, there's not a lot of dynamics in the stereo either. So I guess
I guess I don't know.
Something to be said for consistency.
That's true. They're really doing it. Well, I would be curious to listen to one of those songs that I'm thinking about with a set of stereo speakers and hear if. Do you remember off that album? Were you hearing any stereo play?
I don't remember now because I was so disappointed that I think I listened to it once and just put it aside.
Yeah.
Yeah, just again, when you have an artist that you look forward to hearing their new material, it's like, yeah.
You know that commercial that's on locally? It's a car commercial of some sort, and it sounds like the guy's intentionally calling in through his phone. Have you heard that?
No, but I've heard a lot of those.
Yeah, so like those.
We used to do that on purpose. We used to
exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's like a sonic.
That
So
sort of
that-
side voice.
Yeah, and you do that so that you can always have like a kind of a sonic brand where it's like you hear that, I know that this is this thing. Fueled by Ramen has gotten to the point where I think they are doing it as a sonic brand because every release has it.
Maybe.
And it's like, why would that be what you choose? You're talking about like AAA's and like Major League. I don't know that they would be considered a major label, but they're about as close to one as you could be. They're getting, every one of their artists gets radio play.
Well, there you go. That's all you can ask for.
So what are they doing? I don't know. I could talk about that forever and it'd be very boring. So
Think anybody's still watching? Think we've gone enough into the weeds?
all right, let's get out of the weeds. What is your favorite part about what you do, Andre?
Oh God, gosh, it's maybe the variety, the fact that I get to do what I love doing.
Yeah.
And it's every day is something different, and whether I'm sometimes I'm just a session guitar player, sometimes I'm a producer, sometimes I'm just an engineer, and I get to work in the medium that I love. I'm working in music every single day. I'm never looking at the clock. That's that's I guess for me the hallmark of enjoying your life and what you're doing is I'm never. Remember when you were back at school and the minutes hand would seem like it was going backwards sometimes?
Absolutely.
It's never like that for me. I get to.
Wow, what a professional you are, Andre, getting your phone call.
Sorry about that.
Sure wasn't me. Oh boy, hope they don't call back. I'm gonna turn that off. But you can keep saying what you're saying.
What was the question? My favorite. I think, and the other thing too is finding the balance in life. Again, being 65, I've been married for 20, I'm going on 30 years. Well, it's
You knew the exact number.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
It's exactly Just dub that in.
I'll need to know of a guy with a studio where I can record the real thing. Do you know anyone?
Welcome to beautiful Niagara Falls. And so again, I think finding that balance and having the career path that I have, and having the right person with me on that. My wife was a singer. I met her on the road.
That's really
cool.
She
was a rock singer, and now she's a librarian. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Not only is she a good singer, she can also read. She's literate, and she will correct.
Take that, Randy.
She will correct your grammar. And which also keeps me on my toes. But now finding that balance again, we've been together for 32 years. I think it's 32 years together, and I think so 29 we've been married. And I think having that right person who understands, because what we do, there's a mania about what we do. You have to be almost driven to the point of distraction that normal humans might not understand and might get jealous of the attention that you focus on your career or to your art. And I've never had, she's always been nothing but supportive, because she understands, being an artist herself, she understands that, that's just what he does. That's who he is. And, so again, that's important to find that person. And again, the balance of, I make a point of having a balanced day. So when I'll usually get up between 10 and 11. I'm usually in bed by 4, I would say. And when I'm up 10, 11, I'll if my wife's not working that day, I'll spend a little bit of time hanging out. But then by, 11:30 to noon, I'm down in the studio. I work till about 5:30. 5:30, I'll come up and cook dinner. I love cooking. I think food preparation is a lot like music.
Yeah.
You've got all these different things elements that you can bring into the mix. And you just, it's a catharsis for me in cooking. I love cooking. Together. I might go to work for another, till like from 7 to 8, I might go down and put another hour in. From 8 to 11 is her time.
Nice.
I make a point on every single day. We call it snuggle time. We hang out for 11 o'clock, bed like humans do.
Like a normal person.
Like a normal person. And from 11 till 3 or whenever, I go back and I work. Mm-hmm. And it's people think that's strange, but my mom was a night supervisor at the hospital where I grew up in Connecticut. She was an RN. So the idea of working all night never seemed strange to me.
Yeah.
It's like
Why would it? You're going to get your needs, like the pillars of health that you need. One of the things that you didn't mention that you do is you exercise.
Yeah, you got to. In order to in the old days, it was like, I was playing, 7 days a week. So, you didn't
There's
have
your cardio.
There's your cardio right there. And now it's like, you fall into the sedentary lifestyle, because again, I have no desire to be out playing 7 days a week as much as I love playing, you know. But, so I try to, I've got, during the winter, I've got the elliptical. And as you know, I have a passion. I love riding the rail trails here. And again, if you haven't been on the rail trails, Vermont has these beautiful rail trails. They're just, it's fabulous. What a gift we have there.
I love it so much. I know you love it. I love it so much. Me and my friends used to call the rail trail the Alamo. I got Alamo tattooed on my
that.
That's how much.
I haven't gone that far, but I do enjoy it.
Soon. Let's go get you a tattoo.
Get some ink here. I'm like the only rocker with no ink. My wife has Rebel.
In fairness, the ink that the bands from your generation had, kind of cheesy.
Love, hate.
But so you're hitting all the pillars of health. So it's like it doesn't matter what hours you're working.
No.
You're getting your sleep.
Yeah.
You're eating, which is something that a lot of musicians can sometimes power right through and not eat for a day or two.
Yeah, we are, at the end of the day, we're all subject to our own circadian rhythms. And mine has always been, even when I was younger, I hated sleepovers. You'd go to a friend's house and everybody's asleep. And you're like, it's only like 1 o'clock in the morning. Why is everybody sleeping?
Yeah.
And I could never get into that because it was like, man, I didn't get tired until later. So.
And then, conversely, damn it, I had such a good point. Andre, you're so fascinating that you move too quick for me.
Sorry. Yeah, my wife she has a gift for, following this train of thought that just, it's.
Oh, here it was. I got
it.
So you're talking about working until, 4 in the morning. I have had to install a kill switch in my own psyche And I'm curious if you have this too, where if you get the muse and you're going at, you're in the flow state, it's really working. You know that you have lightning in a bottle. You could recreate technically, but you're not going to recreate the magic.
Yeah.
I will go until it makes me sick. And I've had to create a kill switch. Like, it will literally affect my health. Do you have a kill switch?
When I was younger, I used to just, I'd go until I dropped.
Yeah.
And now I'm more and that's the other thing, with age comes wisdom in that respect, is you become more self-aware. So you realize when you reach that point, as inspired as your flow might be, there's a point of diminishing returns. When you get to that point, and again, this comes with time, just being able to realize that it's like, okay, yeah, this is we're at we're at that zenith where, okay, it's time to
get like the next day mix syndrome, where you think you're in the pocket but you're not, and then you listen the next day and it's like, oh, you ruined something good.
Yeah.
You ever have that?
Well, yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I a lot of times I'll go, that sounds pretty good, and then I realize, well, no, I didn't have the mix thing. Okay.
I'll do a thing where if I have any sort of I'll say this family friendly, if I have any sort of external creative force enter my world, I will duplicate whatever track I'm working on, and I'll retitle the second one, something like, I have a code word, I call it Rusty. And so I'll make a mix on the Rusty mix, and I'll be like, this is going to make this so much better. And if it doesn't, I got the safety mix back from before the external creative forces. And I think that maybe like when you're sleep deprived, maybe that's something I should do too.
Yeah, well, again, I think we all get to know ourselves better as we go through time. Again, I've got a 3 more decades experience than you, so what they say, with age comes wisdom.
With age comes
jury's still out on that one. But yeah, I think you get to know yourself. And again, I used to have that where I would just keep going because I got to get this done. I got to get this done, and not respecting the process enough and respecting my own limitations to understand that. Yeah, you can keep working, and then tomorrow you can fix what
you screwed up.
And of course now it's a lot easier because we can undo things. In the old days, I spent my wonder years on analog consoles, and it wasn't the same. Like, shoot, and it wasn't like you could take your phone and take a picture of it. I still use external preamps on everything. So when I'm working on a project, I'll do the analog preset there with the camera. I guess technically it's a digital preset, but so that's you just different workflows there. But or having to zero out the board for another session. Yeah, I don't miss that at all.
You said something, respect the process. Do you also trust the process if you have the exact inverse? If you don't have any of the magic, you don't have the flow state, will you still just be like, I've spent enough time deliberately learning my craft that I can just do it and it'll work?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to be inspired in any given moment, but no, there are times where you have to sort of handle the task with a working man's grace. You just do what works, what sounds good. Maybe it's less inspired than you would want it to be, but you might be the only person. I mean, that's the other thing you have to realize. Absolutely. As a producer and engineer, there are a myriad of different things that no one else will ever hear. We hear things that I like to take the onion approach to. I'll put parts in songs that people don't hear until the 6th time they hear. It's like, where did that part come from?
But how cool does that feel when that happens?
I was like, was that always there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I slipped it in when you weren't looking. No, it's been there the whole time.
And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that too. Like, obviously you can have the benefit of having a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
But then you can also allow yourself the grace of being like, I don't like the affectation of that one phrase. But when someone's listening to this, unless they're listening with headphones, in which case, God bless them.
Yeah.
They're doing something else.
Yeah.
They're checking their email, or exactly every note, you know how much velocity you put in there. You knew if you were a millisecond short once you're listening to it over and over. They'll never know.
Yeah, no,
They'll never know.
A lot of times as a guitar solo, I'll play solo and I'll really like it, and I'll hear that one note. I'm thinking, it just feels a little behind. It's like, but and sometimes I will actually move it because I'm going, that's going to bug me.
Yeah,
it's not going to bother anyone. No one else will ever hear that, but I will hear that, and I will.
I'm curious. So you said that a little begrudgingly. Do you not like quantizing your stuff?
I don't usually if I'm playing a solo or something, I rarely quantize that.
A solo for sure, yeah. Like that, you'll lose some of the spirit within that, but like other things?
The only thing I ever really quantize sometimes is a percussion part. Because there's so, there's that, that you don't want it to, because sometimes when you're playing, it's like to play a shaker part. Because the shaker is, the funny thing about a shaker is there's that Ignis second where it goes there's that you have to sort of the intangible delay of when the actual perceived hit is in a shaker. So sorry about that. Like that. So when you got like a 3-minute song,
man, you would do it the whole song. I loop that. I get one good take.
I used to loop things.
Yeah.
But now it's like, you know what? I can push and pull and
there is a texture to it that makes it more dynamic.
So I tend to do that. But if I hear a section, I go, yeah. Sometimes, again, it's like when you say a word over and over again, it starts to sound funny. It's the same thing when you have to kind of turn part of your brain off because it's like this motion. You're going.
You can lose the pocket.
Oh yeah, it's really easy to lose the pocket. And again, because you're also there's again the Ignis second of.
Yeah.
It's all anticipating that, and sometimes it doesn't always go exactly the same way. So sometimes I might quantize something like that. Tambourine is another funny thing. Sometimes especially if doing doing that kind of a busy. And but yeah, and I used to loop that stuff all the time, but now I find I tend to do that less because I find it gives this kind of. There's a different kinetic energy to it when there's a bit of ebb and flow, and
it really all depends on what your intent is, right? Because like you cannot quantify how much better it feels if you're looking for like energy to have something that is not to a grid. You can't quantify that. That's for sure a thing.
And the other thing too, if you want to get it again, weeding it out a little bit here, is click tracks.
It's my show. I want to.
Yeah, on click tracks, some people are just they're so anti click track. I've got a lot of converts over the years because I learned one of the first guitar sessions I ever did. I was working with a producer out of New York. And he was also a guitar player, and this guy played on everybody's stuff from Streisand to the Monkees to Simon and Garfunkel. I mean, this guy was a New York session guy. And he said, the click is nothing to be afraid of. He said, and it doesn't have to be stagnant either. You can sit on the front of the beat. You can sit on the back of the beat.
Yeah.
You can push when it gets to the hook. You can like sit, you can almost push it almost a little bit ahead. And when it gets to the verse, sit on the back side of the beat. So I always get this mental image of like this sine wave where the one is like the downbeat is like right on the crest of the there. And sometimes I'm sitting on the back side of it. Sometimes I'm sitting on the front side of it.
Yeah, because you don't have to abide by it for the entirety of whatever phrase you're playing. The goal is to when the phrase switches, switch. Yeah. Everyone switch in tandem.
Yeah.
I was agreeing with you a minute ago, but I am actually like a very big proponent for what I do, which is very different than live performance. I do very like hyper commercialized versions of the genre that I do. Every single thing, there is no exception. Every hit is quantized.
Oh yeah.
Everything is perfectly in tune. Everything's perfectly quantized. Everything has the exact intent velocity. There are not hundreds, but dozens of like pads going on to fill frequency spaces that you do not hear.
Yeah.
And if I were to not do that, I would lose my mind. But I do agree that like with what I said, I wasn't blowing smoke. That like there is something imperceivable about the authenticity and human nature of something that is not done that way.
Yeah.
Conversely, if that's the game that you're playing, like the game that I'm playing, you have to. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
baseline. You can't not.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
mean, again, it's respecting and understanding the genre and working within the framework of that. I mean, that's kind of what we have to do. It's de rigueur, as they say. It's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny. Speaking of filling different aspects, I remember when I first started working with jazz mandolist Will Patton. I had literally no experience recording that type of acoustic music, and that's one of the things with that type of music. There's nothing to hide behind. There are no nice lush keyboard pads.
Yeah.
So it's everything comes from the individual. In that particular lineup, we had drums, upright bass, Will's mandolin, and a violin. And I learned quickly, just being able to. We actually created this mandolin sound that people liked because I didn't know what it was supposed to sound like.
Nice.
I always, I heard this kind of thin, plinky sound.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, But in my mind, I pictured this. I wanted to sound like a big guitar jazz box, like.
Interesting.
So I created this whole thing, and it caught on. It's like that became his sound.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, and just of course when you work with caliber musicians like that too, I mean it's just world class players.
Yeah.
Did I say guitar too? There was guitar in there as well.
You might have backed him into a corner.
Yeah, yes.
Like Mutt Lange, we've talked about.
Oh
a lot.
yeah, one of my
I
heroes.
am sure that if Def Leppard went on to do an album without taking into consideration what Mutt built for them,
Yeah.
if they didn't do the in their vocal tracks, people would
Yeah.
be like, this album sucks.
Yeah.
And the album could be totally exactly the same in every
Yeah.
regard, but it's like those little frills that you put in.
Mutt's
You got to abide by them.
Mutt's the guy. I mean, I remember back there was a band called City Boy that nobody's ever heard of, British band. That one of his first albums that he produced, it was kind of it was very 10cc ish almost, big vocals, great production. But if you get a chance, check out City Boy.
I would like to, yeah.
City Boy was the band,
And you can see where he's piecing together the things that will
Oh,
be his
yeah.
signature. That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. You see the early seeds of Mutt.
Nice.
and
That'll be the episode title, The Early Seeds of Mutt.
Well, here's what if you look at you talk about a different presentation of a song. Look at that Shania Twain album where he did the pop and the country version, and I've often said that I think Shania Twain was Def Leppard with fiddles and banjos.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if you listen to it's got the same anthemic kind of percussive parts and elements, but you can toss in banjos and fiddles. All of a sudden, it's like,
Yeah.
So
A hit's a hit regardless of what you surround it with. And if you have a hit maker make it, they're going to do the same tricks.
you gotta-
I've been working on, we got about 6 minutes left, so we're going to stay in the weeds for the next couple
oh,
minutes.
why not? It's too late
At this
now.
point, I've been working on a project where I had to, it was for a publisher that I already did an album for. And so they're like, technically speaking, we need this to sound like another artist because it's going to be in the same annual release.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to find different textures and stuff. And speaking about being backed into a corner with the sound that you provide,
Yeah.
I'm going to call this album Layers or something because the bass, the B-A-S-E, bass vocal track, just a regular non-choral track, has to have 9 layers to achieve this sound.
Wow.
3 drones, 2 main takes, hard
Is it like a
pan, low
Gregorian
take.
chant thing or what?
What's that?
Gregorian chant?
I mean, well, it sounds just like one vocal take. That's the thing, and I think you can appreciate this, where it's like
Wow, that's
all of these things. If you were to get rid of them, you would hear the absence.
Yeah.
But with the presence, you don't hear the presence. With 5 minutes, I've got a question that I think is pretty interesting. As someone looking in, what do you see in your shows of human nature? What have you learned from human nature by being the person on the stage watching the other experience? They can see you and not learn about human nature, but you can't see them without learning human nature. What have you found?
I mean, just in observing the, we've, especially in 808-4, having a 40-year,
Yeah.
40 years to accrue a fan base. It's the family aspect of it's been really cool to see.
cool.
Like when we play, and I always try to spend time with the fans. I think again, these are our employers. These
Yeah.
are the people that have paid our bills for the last 4 decades. So I always try to make time and have the whole meet and greet after the show. But the coolest thing is when we get to meet the three generations.
That's gotta be crazy.
It used to be, hey, we met. It's typical. We met at one of your shows. Then it's like, hey, my parents met at one of your shows. Hey,
You get a grandparent.
My grandparents. Now we've got it's 8084 Cradle to the Grave.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing in the fact that people bring that whole generational thing. That's just really cool.
Yeah.
To me it's an honor that people do that they want to share that with their kids, and having something it's so hard to have something to share with your kids nowadays.
Yeah.
Where you have any commonality where you can go, hey, let's go out and do this together.
I think I've said this to you before, but there is no way for you to ever quantify if someone has that relationship without them telling you or without you seeing it. And so as a consequence of that, you will never know if out there someday at the right time, someone hears an 8084 song and it brings them to the place that they need to be.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Again, yeah, that's like the ultimate right there. And when people come up, guitar players come up and say, hey, you inspired me. I mean, as an artist, there's no higher praise than that you made me want to do this. You made me, you inspired me to work at this. And it's like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You crush everything that you do, and I admire that.
Well, again, I'm a lucky guy. I never lose sight of that.
That's good.
How lucky am I? I get to do this. I get to hang out with my buddies.
Life is good, huh?
It's pretty damn good. You have to spend more time at the studio, though. You go by twice a day,
me.
right? Well, I did invite you.
Oh, damn! Did you? Oops.
Yeah. Remember?
Said another.
I said open invitation.
I would love to. I always have an absolute blast when I stop by.
West Street Digital.
Yeah. Let's get your plugs in for the last 2 minutes. Is there anything that you want? There's got to be someone out there that was like, this is exactly the interview that I needed to see. And then there's a subset of people that are like, this is cool. So to both subsets of those people, what would you like to have your last Andre plug be?
Well, of course. I mean, come see me at the studio. I'd love to produce your music. 8084, 8084rocks.com now, I guess. And
8084 does rock.
It does. And of course, Jesse Aiken, the Music of Queen. There's another. We'll be doing a bunch of shows around New England this summer. Well, spring, summer, fall, all the seasons.
If you follow the websites, I'm sure there's Facebooks too, then you'll have all the updates. And if you haven't seen an 8084 show or a Jesse Aiken Queen show, they're great. They're objectively excellent.
And we're working on a new 8084 album now.
Nice.
That's why actually we're taking time off this year from playing. Actually, Randy and I had a great writing session the other day, and it's funny. He had this idea for a song that he came up with the lyrical content after reading an article with Toby Keith. He was talking about in his last days and everything. So that's not necessarily the feel good hit of the summer, but it's a poignant tale.
Yeah.
So
well, that's awesome. If you ever need any ears in the process, shoot some demos over.
I will definitely do that.
Thank you for being here. You are genuinely one of the most interesting people I know, so it is fitting to have you on this show. Viewer, if you yourself are interesting, shoot an email to the email address below. I always hate signing off like this because I feel like it short sells you. Andre, you're great. Viewer, you're great. You know where to contact us, and you know where to contact me. I'd love to hang out some more.
Down in the email address below.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, and thank you, Andre.
Thank you, buddy.